This is an Aero 15 OLED YD. It has an 11th gen Core i9 CPU with an RTX 3080 8GB graphics card. This is an updated model that addresses a couple issues found in the previous one that came with the 10th gen Intel Core processors. You can see the model number for this particular machine on your screen right now, and it is also in the description below. The prices for the model are all over the place, but do check out the links below. By the way, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Let's just get something out of the way first. I see that this machine is being marketed as a gaming/creator's laptop. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the gaming designation since the maximum refresh rate is only 60 Hz. If I needed a gaming laptop, I personally would be looking for a different refresh rate, probably 144 Hz. I also would be okay with a 1440p panel instead of a 4K. One caveat, you could connect this laptop to an external monitor and get 120 Hz. Now, if you're a creator and you're mostly using Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, this certainly checks many boxes. This OLED screen is absolutely gorgeous. It has a 4K 15.6-inch Samsung panel. It is single-handedly the best feature of this machine. We can talk about the specs all we want, but if you have a mediocre display, the rest won't matter as much. My non-OLED XPS 15 looks somewhat washed out compared to this one. Now, let's talk about the display in more detail. It has 100% DCI-P3 coverage. This is the standard adopted by the movie industry, and it also has X-Rite Pantone certified panel. The display is not a touchscreen, but it's not really a deal breaker for me personally. It's almost a detriment. I found that when I wipe the dust off the screen on my touch-enabled laptop, I sometimes accidentally close the window or unintentionally move things around. Let's just briefly go over the key specs. It comes with an 11th gen Core i9 11980HK 2.6 GHz CPU with a boost of up to 5 GHz. It has 32 GB of DDR4 RAM, and it also comes with two M.2 SSDs, the primary one with 512 GB and the other one is 1 TB. The GPU is an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 with 8 GB of RAM. You could theoretically buy this machine with an RTX 3080 with 16 GB of RAM, but I haven't seen one in a while. Also, it would probably not make a big difference if you're gaming, but would help with some potentially intensive creative workflows. Now, a couple more things to mention about the GPU. You're not getting the same RTX 3080 as you would find in desktops. Just look at this card right here. It is almost as big as the laptop, and it's also quite a bit thicker. If you look at the specs, the single most telling one is the power draw. The desktop card draws up to 320 watts, while the laptop card maxes out at 150 watts. And the card in this machine is capped at 105 watts. Look, the laptop power brick provides 230 watts. And you also need to power the CPU, the screen, and all of the other components. Overall, based on various benchmarks that I've seen, you give up about 20 to 30% in performance. So the card is on par with a desktop 3060 Ti, and it should be faster than the desktop RTX 2080. Here's what I'm really saying. Since most of you watching this video are adults, there is no magic. So you do give up some of the performance, but it's still quite a powerful card. Alright guys, let's take a look at the ports. Here are your USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, a Thunderbolt 4 port, a UHS 2 port for the SD cards, and this is where your power goes. Alright guys, let's take a look at the other side. So this is your HDMI 2.1 port, a mini display port, another USB 3.2 Gen 1 port, a headphone/microphone jack, and an Ethernet port. And that's about it. So there are massive vents in the back, and the whole bottom is pretty much one giant vent right here. So very nice. One thing I want to note is your fingerprint reader is actually on the trackpad right here. I like how Dell implemented theirs. It's on the power button, but you know what, that's okay. Alright guys, so besides the fingerprint reader, I have another issue with this laptop, and it's the camera. First of all, the quality is subpar, so there's a lot of noise, and the resolution is so-so. I think it's just 720p. And the bigger issue is the camera positioning. So instead of putting it in the top bezel, it's located down here. So you get a great view up my nose, which is not ideal. Just something to keep in mind if you're using your laptop for video conferencing a lot. I basically have to get an external camera. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it's, again, it's just one of the downsides. The biggest change from the previous model is going from a Thunderbolt 3 to a Thunderbolt 4 port, and let me explain what this means and if you should really care. First of all, it has the same speed of 40 gigabits per second, but it is able to drive two 4K monitors at the same time, while Thunderbolt 3 did not, or rather didn't have to. It also has an increased PCIe storage speed from 16 gigabits per second to 32 gigabits per second, and it is also fully backwards compatible. Alright guys, let's take a look at some benchmarks. I'm running GTA 5 with most settings set to high or very high. It's not 100% maxed out, so that I did not turn on the motion blur, but most of the settings are. Let's do this first in 1080p, and then I will also run it in 4K, and I'll show you what it looks like side by side. You're seeing the 1080p resolution, the thermals look okay to me, the frame rate is above 100, which is fine, and don't forget GTA 5 is a pretty taxing game performance-wise. So in 4K, the thermals still look okay to me. The frame rate is down, of course, so we're looking at something between 25 to 30 frames per second, which is not great, but again, as I said, most settings are set to the max, so by adjusting them downward a little bit, you can actually get 60 frames per second easily. I did that. This is just for the demonstration purposes only, pretty much. So yeah, not too bad. Okay, that's it as far as benchmarks. Let's move on. I also tested the video export with Adobe Premiere Pro. It took 1 minute and 12 seconds to process a 2.5 gigabyte file. Also, just working with 4K footage inside Premiere Pro is pretty much the same as on my desktop. I don't see any difference, it's very fast, the system is snappy, and the fan noise is also pretty subdued, unlike when you're gaming. Let's talk about the previous model of this laptop. The biggest concern that I saw was Wi-Fi performance. The internet speed was very slow and it was dropping connection constantly. I have used this machine continuously for several days and I did not experience any issues. Now, it's maybe too early to tell, but so far, so good. Looks like the Wi-Fi issue has been fixed. So, unless you can get a smoking deal on the previous model, I would highly recommend getting this one. And also at the time of this video, Gigabyte is offering a $500 rebate on the new model, which makes it even cheaper than the models I'm seeing on eBay, the older ones. Another thing I want to point out that besides fixing the Wi-Fi issue, there is a significant jump in CPU performance. Going to the 11th gen Core i9 11980HK gives you up to 25% more boost than the 10980HK. The new CPU is based on the completely revamped 10nm architecture versus 14nm we've been seeing for several years now. So this is the biggest change between the CPU generations we've seen in a very long time. Also, this 11th gen architecture is what enables Thunderbolt 4 support I was talking about earlier. Just a few things about the battery life. The battery capacity is 99 watt-hours and it is the maximum allowed you can take on the plane. So you wouldn't be able to just get a bigger battery. The laptop is supposed to last all day just on battery alone. I guess you could get about 8 hours if you're just using the laptop for video playback at reduced brightness. I wouldn't expect it to last more than 4 to 5 hours if you're actively using it for office work, and all bets are off if you're gaming on it. I know there are many choices for a laptop right now. XPS lineup definitely looks appealing, but what I like about this particular machine is this outstanding display and just raw performance. It also makes sense at the current prices I'm seeing as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.